Archivist is a blazingly fast search engine for code that can query your codebase in milliseconds, that automatically updates as you write code, and that you can get started with in minutes. Let me show you the demo. As you can see here, I've cloned OpenAI's Whisper repository from GitHub, which is a machine learning model that converts speech into text. And if we open up the code in VS Code and go to the extension marketplace, we can search for the Archivist extension. As you can see here, Archivist currently supports Python, Java, TypeScript, JavaScript, TSX, and JSX, which means that we can use it on this code base since it's roughly 4,000 lines of Python code. Additionally, as you can see here, Archivist automatically creates a .archivist folder in this directory. If we open up the config.json, we'll see an auto-generated project ID, as well as a list of ignored files, which are in the gitignore syntax. So any glob that's listed here, or any directory, and all files in that directory that are listed here will automatically be ignored. And as you can see, Archivist configures a list of ignored files for us by default. This list looks good to me, so we're all set to begin indexing our codebase. To do that, we'll open up the Archivist extension and move it up here and begin clicking this button to index our codebase. As you can see, our entire codebase of roughly 5,000 lines of Python code was indexed in only roughly 2.5 minutes. Now let's get started actually testing how we query our codebase using Archivist. Let's say I wanted to figure out where the attention mechanism was implemented. If I didn't have Archivist, I would have to try to manually search through the entire codebase to figure out where this is implemented, having to search through notebooks, several different classes, and manually try and figure out where the relevant pieces of codes are. Instead, using Archivist, I can simply type in where is attention implemented. And as you can see, in roughly 200 milliseconds, I get a list of relevant snippets, as well as a code explanation of how these snippets relate to my query. Let's go ahead and click on the first snippet. As you can see, the code is automatically opened and highlighted in the relevant file, and we get exactly the piece of code that we were looking for with our query, which is the implementation of attention in this code base. If we go down to the code explanation, we'll also see that this code is explained in detail. The Archivist tells us that this function, starting in line 93, takes in the query, key, and value tensors, as well as an optional mass tensor, and automatically computes the weighted sum of the values based on the attention scores between the queries and the keys. It goes on to also explain another chunk of code, which is right here in /whisper/timing.py, which uses the attention mechanism in order to, as Archivist explains, find alignment between the text tokens and audio features. If we also click through the other recommended snippets, we see other pieces of code that are related to our query, such as the multi-head attention class, which utilizes this attention implementation to perform multi-head attention. As another test, let's ask Archivist where audio is decoded in the codebase. Once again, in roughly 200 milliseconds, we get several recommendations related to our query. And the very first recommendation is exactly the function we were searching for, this decode function, which performs decoding of 30-second audio segments. And once again, despite this decoding.py file being over 800 lines long, you'll see that we have no problem indexing it and can immediately show you the result in the query. But Archivist can do far more than just query your codebase. It can also automatically index changes and reflect them in your queries. For example, let's edit this 800-line decoding.py file with a simple test function. If we say print hello and write a function that simply prints hello world to standard output and then save our code, we can then navigate over to Archivist and ask it where this piece of code is present. So print hello world to standard output. And as you can see, just like that, with zero downtime required, Archivist instantly recommends the relevant piece of code to us. If we delete this snippet of code and now rerun our query, you'll see that that snippet is gone. So once again, with zero downtime, Archivist can index the changes and give us relevant results. Even beyond being able to automatically update as you make changes in VS Code, Archivist can also automatically update when you make changes in other editors. For example, let's open up the model.py file. And in this file, we have this model dimensions data class, which defines many of the hyperparameters for our model. Let's say we delete this data class. And now when we go to Archivist and search for it, model dimension data, you'll see that none of the recommended snippets contain this data. Archivist has just updated and removed this code snippet. Let's say, for example, we now open model.py in Vim. And we add back the code snippet that we just deleted. And we save, and we head back to VS Code. If we now run the same query, we'll see that we'll automatically be able to get the same code snippet that we just added back in Vim. So upon running this query, again, in only 200 milliseconds, we'll get the result, and we'll see that we have the original snippet. Archivist can also index changes that you make while VS Code is closed, automatically reconciling changes the first time you open VS Code after making an edit. But hopefully now you've seen the power of Archivist. It can answer all of your questions in milliseconds by giving you relevant code snippets and summarizing how they relate to your query. It can index your code in minutes, and it's thoughtfully designed to continually index and update itself as you make changes with as little downtime as possible. To try Archivist today, head over again to the VS Code extension marketplace, type in Archivist, and click on the Archivist extension to install. I hope you will give it a try.